news on Vanguard Live. I am Precious Chukudi. We begin with the front pages of the paper, starting off with Vanguard, and Vanguard is leading with PDP. Atiku holds rally in Yola. Wike's allies meet in P-Harcourt. The writer says Odili's birthday overshadowed anticipated meeting. I have not resigned, no plans to do so, says Ayu. Yola tipped to be Atiku's campaign DG. Giving Wike chairmanship slot will solve crisis. That's coming from Senator Okon. Wike won't leave PDP. He's a principled politician. That's coming from Daily Momodu. We can also see a photo story showing Atiku in Yola. Stories below, we have Fulani group disowns Miyetti Allah's statement on Obi. You can see that on page 4. Still on page 4, Blackout looms as electricity workers begin strike tomorrow. Picket TCN today. On page 6, gunmen invade Kogi market, kill one, abduct another, demands a 20 million naira ransom. On page 9, Victor Wife's family disowns remembrance program, alleges forgery of will. Stories above. We have on page 6, police custom officers clearing agents by Colorado tramadol from us. That's coming from drug peddlers. We have on page 19, election fever pressures the inflation rate to 16 years high. On page 20, the big interview. Millions of Nigerians taken out of poverty through Works Housing Ministry. That's coming from Pashola. Also, Lou of Warri's first anniversary celebration. To get that, you have to stick to our website and also the Vanguard newspaper. And that's how we can take on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Let's take a look at The Guardian. The Guardian is leading with 19.6% inflation. More people become poor. Expert warns. The writer says defies interest rate hike. Rattles analysts. Surge to 19.6%, highest since 2005. Figures reflection of more scary future. Okon, civil servants most hit. Purchasing power very weak. Suspend telecom beverage tax, says Waleke. Reign in 19.7 trillion naira ways and means loans to federal government. Galloping inflation recipe for recession. Higher unemployment. Economics insists. Stories below. We have Niger Delta leader Ajube alleges neglect of Ondo mandate areas by NDDC. On page 4, Ruto wins Kenyan presidential election. Buhari applauds exercise. A Catholic group rejects Along's apology, tells governor to resign. Fulani elite disown Miyetti Allah's statement on Obi. Page 4, Afenifere accuses Buhari's government of ceding Nigeria to terrorists. Lastly, on front page of the Guardian newspaper, PDP crisis, you can't decide for a presidential candidate, says McAfee. All right, let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. The Nation is leading with to Wike others. I have no plan to quit PDP chair now. I was elected for 4 years. Absence of Atiku's men stop peace party. Federal government not sincere about ending strike, says ASU. Union meets Education Minister others today. 9 stories above. We have 19.64% inflation rate, highest ever in 17 years, says NBS. Rate jumps by 1.82% in 1 month. World Bank ex-LCCI chief worried. NCDC confirms 15 monkeypox cases. Electricity workers set to battle TCN. Ocean OSEC chairman alleges threat to life. Commercial activities pick up in Southeast. You can see that on page 5. That's how we can take on the front page of the Nation. Let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. The Punch is leading with 19.6% inflation rate. Federal government warned against Aki's hunger. Sierra Leone's crisis. The writer says inflation hits 17 years all-time high. Nigerians to pay more for consumables. Nigeria going Zimbabwean way. Nobody's doing anything. That's come from DG NAC. Politicians concerned about 2023 elections, not dying economy. That's coming from experts in CSO. Amotekun train Ondo recruits vow to tackle criminals. You can see a photo story on that. On pages 4 and 5, man dies in motel after meeting online lover. Still on pages 4 and 5, police kill 5 kidnappers, abducted Redeemer's student escapes, and killing of innocent Nigerians. Afenifere tells Buhari. You can see that on page 29. Stories above. Power intervention funds jump to 2.9 trillion naira. Lassa fever, 165 killed. Awareness call rises. You can see that on page 5. Federal government asked to meet today. Strike enters 183 days. Wow. A running mate, Wike accuses Rivers elders of gang up. You can see that on page 18. Last on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Fuel subsidy hits 1.593 trillion naira. Refineries rehabilitation gobs of 54 billion naira. And that's all we can take on the front pages of the papers. Join us after the break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. We're just joining us today in the news of Angle Life. I am Precious Chukudi, and joining me to talk about the front pages of the papers this morning is Mr. Dayo Akintobi. He's the publisher of Liquid Today and Lekki Today. Good morning, sir. Good to have you join me this morning.
Good morning, Precious. Good morning to all our viewers.
All right, so let's move into the papers, and we're still talking about Atiku Wike's feud. What's your take on the situation of things? It's been back and forth, of late now, with Wike's camp asking for some demands and Atiku's camp, still quiet, and things going back and forth in the PDP camp. What do you think about it?
Well, Wike lost out on both the presidential ticket and the vice presidential slot, and that has kind of been a bit of a slur for him. And he looks at the kind of influence he wields within the party and the kind of financial support he's been giving the party over the years, and he thinks he should have been treated a bit better than that. And so this is the groundswell of the agitation from Wike camp, is that despite the pivotal role they play within the PDP, they've essentially been shut out of the two key positions in terms of the upcoming elections. So, without a doubt, they're not happy about that. And my understanding is that they are now angling for chairmanship of the party. That, well, if they couldn't get the presidential slot and they couldn't get the vice presidential slot, he at least should be offered the chairmanship of the party. But even before getting to that point, one major point of contention from him is that the existing chairman must resign his position because it's against the party ethos for both the presidential candidate and the chairman of the party to come from the same zone, which is they're both from the north. But a lot of watchers believe that agitation is just so that Wike himself, that he doesn't particularly care really in terms of the principle. He doesn't really care that both are from the same zone, that he's making that agitation to get the existing president to resign, and then he has an opportunity to become chairman of the party. If Wike is not placated some kind of way, there is a real and clear present danger that he may decide to pack his bags and go elsewhere. The PDP does not want that to happen, clearly.
All right, so you made mention of the fact that, some people are also mentioning the fact that, he should be compensated with the chairmanship position of the party. What do you think about that? Do you think that would solve the crisis going on in the party?
Well, I think more than anything else, the party has to just show Wike that they appreciate him, that they appreciate his efforts, they appreciate his funding, they appreciate the visibility he's given to the party over the years. Because, truth be told, PDP as an opposition party has not really done that much. They've not been very effective, whether at the National Assembly or in the different state houses. They've not really been vocal as an opposition party, and Wike is the one who has kept PDP in the limelight over the last 7 years. So without a doubt, one has to doff one's hat to his efforts of keeping the PDP relevant, and I don't think he should just be allowed to go off into the night without his capabilities being utilized for the good of the party in the future. What are those capabilities? Like I said, he has a very strong following within the PDP. Within the South, he's highly regarded. He's also had a war chest that he has made available at PDP's disposal. So he is a force to be reckoned with within the PDP, and I think it's to their own peril if they don't find a way to placate him. I understand some of the things on the table are that he will get to a point, perhaps the SSG or the chief of staff and certain ministers, he will get to put people forward if PDP wins the presidential contest. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that you've got to keep your people, your key people within any organization. You've got to let them know their efforts are appreciated. You've got to keep them within the loop. Because it looks like the Atiku camp is going off on his own tangent without involving Wike and some of the other elders of the party in some of the decisions they are taking and the direction that they want the presidential campaign to go. Well, you don't do that because a tree does not make a forest. Atiku and Okoa on their own do not make the PDP. For the PDP to have the kind of national appeal that it needs to have to win the presidential election, it's got to carry players along. It's got to carry key players along and utilize their capabilities, their networks, their strengths, the goodwill they've generated in various parts of the country.
All right, there are reports that there are some persons who are, within and outside, the party that are trying to avoid a reconciliation effort between the Atiku camp and also the Wike camp. What do you think that these people tend to gain, if they stop reconciliation processes between these camps?
There's always vested interest in every engagement, and you will find those who are Atiku supporters who don't like Wike and who don't want him to have a say, perhaps because if Wike has a strong say, they might be shut out. Likewise, there are some people in Wike's camp who are not interested in working with the Atiku people because they know that they may not get anything out of it. So politics is a game of interest. We hear that all the time. Politics is an engagement of interests, and as a result, people will always skew to the side that works towards their own interests. So I'm not surprised to hear that there are some people who are not interested in any reconciliation efforts. But like I said before, that would be to PDP's peril if they don't reconcile these two juggernauts, because both of them are key to the success of the party at the polls. And I don't think any selfish agenda or any individual aspiration or consideration should take precedence over the overall well-being of the party. And I think that to have a healthy, vibrant PDP, both the Atiku and the Wike camps need to reconcile their differences. Whoever is able to bring them together, make them bury the hatchet, find a middle ground for all their grievances, without a doubt. Like I said, Atiku has a legitimate grievance. Wike has legitimate grounds to feel disgruntled and aggrieved. So they should try to find out what his concerns are. He's never beaten his tongue about expressing his concerns. And so they should find out how to address those concerns, have a meeting of the minds, compromise with him to some extent for the overall good of the party and for the progress of the campaign towards the presidential election next year.
All right, the ABC party has picked its own campaign council, but the PDP is yet to, as a result of this crisis. Now, some persons are saying that, Atiku should go ahead and pick who his campaign team would be, and that some other people are also saying that if he goes ahead to do that, this might just be the end of the party. What do you think about it?
Well, he has to be very careful in his choice of who runs his campaign. Apart from even just the competence and the ability, there's also considerations that he has to weigh. There's issues, of course, of ethnicity, religion, which, all play a factor. What we're hearing now is that the PDP is trying to offer the DG of the Atiku campaign to the Southwest, kind of as a stop to the Southwest to say, okay, you guys have this, so you don't feel shut out of the whole process, and so that you can also campaign for us and rally around and bring the Southwest into the fold. Because APC seems to be a bit stronger in the Southwest, so PDP is looking for ways that it can attract a greater followership in the Southwest, because the Southwest does have a key number of votes to give to whoever their preferred candidate is. So the PDP is posturing to see how it will look if they offer the DG of the campaign, of Atiku campaign to the Southwest. But the Southwest is looking at it and saying, well, the DG is an appointed position. Once the election is over, that DG is gone. He has no necessarily, he's not necessarily going to be involved in the upcoming administration if the PDP wins. So the Southwest is saying, no, we're going to hold out for something more important. We want a better role. We want a more inclusive, involved role in the upcoming government. We want you to commit to give us something more tangible than DG of the campaign committee. So these are further rumblings that could, yes, have the potential to tear the party apart. And that's why there's always great considerations of trying to balance various posts within the campaign, within the administration, to make sure that all the regions are carried along. Because remember, to win the presidential election, you need to cover 2/3 of the Nigerian states. You need to have, I think, 25% of the vote in 2/3 of Nigerian states, which is 24 states. So if you're only popular in the north, you can't win a presidential election. If you're only popular in the south, you can't win a presidential election. By the time you count 24 states, you know that you have to cherry pick some from each of